And this tension between technology's promise and its danger isn't just happening here on Earth. In 2026, the final frontier is rapidly becoming the next battlefield, as military competition in space intensifies dramatically. We are basically watching the dangerous step-by-step beginning of a new arms race. The US is pushing for a Golden Dome missile shield. Russia is reportedly testing a space-based nuclear weapon designed to destroy entire satellite networks. And at the same time, countries like Britain and France are openly developing their own counter-space offensive capabilities. So the decades-old norms that kept space peaceful are eroding before our eyes. Okay, our third storm is economic. The tectonic plates of the global economy are shifting, creating a new landscape with new winners, new losers, and an entirely new set of rules. And this chart really captures a historic moment. At some point in early 2026, India's economy is projected to actually overtake Japan's, becoming the fourth largest in the entire world. So after surpassing countries like Britain and Canada, it's now approaching Germany for the number 3 spot. Incredible. But, and this is crucial, here's the critical context. This is another one of 2026's great contradictions. So while India may be an economic giant in absolute terms, when you look at GDP per capita, it is still a poor country. It ranks 126th in the world. All that wealth is being shared among 11 times more people than Japan. So there's this paradox. India is simultaneously a rising superpower and a nation still struggling with widespread poverty. Meanwhile, the established economic powers are facing serious headwinds of their own. The entire post-war trade order led by the United States is under immense pressure from a much more ambitious China that sees a major opportunity in America's recent inward turn. And China has a very clear playbook. It is doubling down on technological self-reliance, trying to work around US sanctions. It's using its role as host of the APEC summit to present itself as Asia's most reliable economic partner. And it's signing trade deals everywhere, with ASEAN, with the Gulf states, you name it. All while trying to manage its own domestic slowdown by pushing more exports into the global market. Each of these moves is a calculated effort to reshape the economic order in its favor. But it's not all grand strategy and geopolitical chess. The character of 2026 is also being shaped by some truly surprising and even contradictory cultural and consumer trends happening just beneath the surface. These are small shifts that actually tell a much bigger story about our changing world. For example, 2026 is the year the world officially reaches peak wine, which is a fascinating sign of how tastes and lifestyles are shifting globally. It's also the year weight loss drugs are truly poised to go global. Patents are expiring, which could make them accessible to billions of people and completely reshape public health. And look at this. After more than 230 years, 2026 is the year America is finally preparing to say goodbye to the penny. A small change, sure, but one that says a lot about economic evolution and, about letting go of the past. As we navigate our way through this turbulent year, one thing becomes crystal clear. It is defined by unresolved conflicts, a year of great contradictions, of booms and busts, of old alliances unraveling while new powers rise, of immense promise and equal danger. And that brings us back, in the end, to Odysseus. Just like him, our world is on a stormy sea, facing its own monsters and crossroads. And the ultimate question for 2026, the question all of us are left with, is this. Which path will we choose? 2026, we are truly turning a major corner. And as you know, it is shaping up to be a year filled with intense difficulties and contradictions. It feels like a period in which all the old rules have collapsed, but the new ones have not yet been written. As if we are all sailing straight into a perfect storm of transformation. And this idea of a stormy journey actually gives us a great guide for thinking about the year. Odysseus, yes, the hero of Homer's Odyssey. The classicist Daniel Mendelsohn has a wonderful line, calling him the perfect hero for our stormy times. And it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? His entire story is this epic, brutal journey home, filled with monsters and complete uncertainty. It's a powerful metaphor for where the world is heading in 2026, a path defined by truly difficult choices and, enormous consequences. So in our own Odyssey, what monsters will we face? What kinds of storms are brewing on the horizon? In this explainer, we'll navigate through the three biggest ones. First, a real crisis in democracy. Then we'll look at the double-edged sword of technology. And finally, we'll dive into a major shift in the global economic order. All right, let's begin. Okay, first, the state of democracy. We're talking about deep partisan divisions that are pushing democratic systems to their absolute limits. You can see it all across the West. This battle between populist nationalism and the political establishment is raging fiercely. And in 2026, it feels like it's reaching a real flashpoint. And you don't have to look any further than the United States to see it. In July, the country is preparing to celebrate its 250th birthday, its semi-quincentennial. Now, you would think this would be a moment of unity, right? But instead, the celebration itself has become a symbol, a perfect snapshot of how politically fragmented the nation has become. And this slide reveals that division so perfectly. I mean, just look at it. On one side, you have the official America 250 Commission. It was created by Congress, and the whole idea was for it to be bipartisan. On the other side, you have President Trump's Task Force 250, created by executive order to promote a very, very specific version of American history. Two commissions, two completely different stories for a single birthday. It's pretty intense. And look, this isn't just about throwing a party. It goes much deeper. As George Orwell famously said, "Whoever controls the past controls the future." This is a high-stakes battle for America's national story. Each side is trying to shape the country's identity for future generations. But this democratic stress test is definitely not just an American issue. When you look at Europe, a very similar battle is unfolding. There are populist parties challenging the political firewalls that have long prevented them from reaching real power. And this chart really shows you the key flashpoints. Take Germany, for example. The AfD is polling so strongly in state elections that it could actually breach the Brandmauer, that firewall, for the first time. Then there's France, where all this government instability could easily trigger new elections, potentially handing the Prime Minister's office to Marine Le Pen's national rally. And in Britain, the local elections will be a major test of whether Reform UK's strong polling numbers can finally translate into real power on the ground. Okay, the second major storm front we're facing is all about technology. 2026 is shaping up to be the year when the incredible, mind-blowing promise of innovation collides with its potential for disruption and danger. And of course, at the very heart of this conflict is artificial intelligence. We've moved beyond the "wow, look what this chatbot can do" phase, and now we're in a full-blown investment frenzy. All of it built on the promise that AI will transform just about everything. And the sheer scale of that bet, well, it's staggering. One estimate suggests that by the end of the decade, $7 trillion will be poured into AI. $7 trillion. A financial boom that is completely dependent on this technology succeeding. But here's the big reality check. Right now, An astonishing 95% of corporate AI pilot projects are failing to deliver any financial return. None at all. There's this huge, stretching gap between all the hype and the actual profitable use of AI by real businesses. So that gap, it creates enormous risks. What if investors lose faith? That could trigger a market correction that wipes out trillions. But what if the opposite happens and adoption accelerates, especially with these new autonomous AI agents designed to replace human workers one for one? Well, that could spark a massive social backlash against AI as a job-stealing threat, particularly for new graduates trying to enter the workforce